So hi guys, another Mr. Omix video here. And in this particular video, I want us to be looking at how to solve trigonometric equations. You know the way you have normal equations, you have linear equations, you have simultaneous equations and all that. The same way we also have what we call trigonometric equations. That means equations that have to do with sine, cos, and then tan. Okay, and then we'll see how to solve it. So let's get into it quickly as I share my screen. Okay, so what do I mean by a trigonometric equation? Let me just write it here. So we're looking at what we call the trigonometric equations. The trigonometric equations. Okay. So the very first thing I'm going to be saying is that the steps in solving a trigonometric equation is just basically the same step as solving a normal equation or a basic equation or a simple linear equation. Take for example, if I say sine x is equal to 0.5 and then I say find angle x. Okay, so the same thing you do, normal equation, you say divide both sides by the number that is not x. Okay, so in this case, you're just basically like saying it's not the same thing, but that's just something like what you're saying. Divide both sides by sine x, and then when you do that, you're saying x is equal to sine inverse of 0.5. Okay, so just understand that if you're finding the value of an angle and they've given you whether it's the sine, whether it's the cos, whether it's the tan, you must always do an inverse. Okay, so your calculator comes in handy here. We're also going to look at how to do this without the calculator, obviously. But first, let's look at the calculator. So what you just do is you press the shift button depending on the type of calculator you're using, and then you press the sign, and then you see sine and like a raised to the power of -1, which is the same thing as inverse of your 0.5, and then the x which you're looking for is 30 degrees. Okay, it can be also the same thing for cos. Take for example, I can say find the value of x if cos x is equal to 0.8453. Practically the same thing. So to get the angle, you just do the cos inverse of 0.8453. Okay, please use your calculator. Again, press the shift button and then the cos button, and then you're able to get the cos inverse of that. And my calculator gives me the value as 32.3 degrees. Okay, so that's just like a basic introduction into what we're about to do, but this is not exactly everything that this entails, but it's just like what you're supposed to expect. Okay, so let's get into it quickly. Now let me just take a very simple example. Take for example, you have solve 3 sine x plus 2, right, is equal to 4. Solve 3 sine x plus 2 is equal to 4. And so what they usually do, or what the examiner will usually do, is to give you a range for which this your angle exists. Okay, so this is always the range, or most of the time this is the range I've seen. Sometimes it's between 0 and 90, but most of the time is usually between 0 and 360 degrees. Okay, I'm sure you can see this. So that means you're going to be getting, and sometimes the answer space, we have 2 spaces. There's something like this in the answer space. Again, it is not, you don't have to wait for it to have 2 spaces before you know you're supposed to get 2 angles. Once you see this type of question, there are usually 2 angles you get. Anytime you're told to find the value of an angle and it is beyond 90. Once it's beyond 90 in the range you're giving, then obviously it's going to be 2 values. Okay, and I'm going to tell you quickly how to get the two values. Okay, so let's do the normal solving of the equation we know, like we just did now. So you have 3 sine x. Let's just go through it together. You have 3 sine x plus 2 is equal to 4. So if you solve this equation, usually what will you do? You have to remove the 2 to the other side, take the 2 to the other side, it becomes negative 2. So you have 4 minus 2. So that gives you 3 sine x is equal to 2. Then you divide both sides by 3. I'm guessing that's what you're going to do. Divided by 3, divided by 3. Just like you're solving a usual equation. Okay, so that gives you sine x is equal to 2 over 3. And like we just did, all you've got to do is to get sine inverse of 2 all over 3. Again, your calculator comes in very, very handy here. And then you press shift of sine this time around. 2 divided by 3. I close my bracket, and that gives me 41.8 degrees. That gives me 41.8 degrees. Now, looking at it, it gives me 41.8 degrees. But like I said, the answer space has 2 values for answers. Again, let me be clear. The answer space may have only one space. Still, you're to get 2 angles if your range is between 0 and 360. Once your range is above 90, then what the examiner is expecting is that you have 2 different answers provided. So what I'm going to do now is the first answer I've gotten, I'll put 41.8 degrees here as the first answer. So now how do you get the second answer? So now I'm going to write a couple of things down for you to be able to see as a guide. Okay. So what I'm going to write here is now how to get the second angle. If it is sine, you're basically doing 180 minus the first angle you've gotten. Now, if this question were a cos question, cos to get the second value would have been cos is 360 minus x. And if it were to be a tangent question or a tan question, it would simply have been 180 plus x. But since this is a sine question, to get the second value, I'll just do 180 minus what I just got, the calculator value, which is 138.2. So the question will be, how do you check if you're correct? All you have to do to check if you're correct is come to the initial equation with your calculator again, since it's a calculator question. With your calculator again, come to the question and then replace your angles. 3 sine, so start with 41.8, right? Plus 2. If you put this in your calculator and it gives you 4, it automatically means what you got is correct. You do the same thing for the second one. You also do 3 sine 138.2 plus 2. Put it in your calculator also. Then if it gives you 4, it obviously means you got it right. Okay? So quickly as we do usually, so we'll go to exam start questions I've queued up already, and then we're going to look at them one after the other. So I'm going to start with the ones that you need a calculator to solve. Let me start with this. Okay. So look at this. The question says solve. It says solve 3 minus 2 sine x is equal to 13 over 4. Okay. So basically what I'll do is I'll say 3. I'm just going to collect like terms, move 13 over 4 here. 3 minus 13 over 4 is equal to, and then I move this here, so it becomes plus, is equal to 2 sine x. So I just took 2 steps at the same time. Okay, 2 sine x. Okay, so this can quickly be done with a calculator, right? So just use a calculator quickly. 13 divided by 4, or we may not even use a calculator. Okay, so let's do without a calculator. So let's just do our usual this, and that gives us 12 minus 13, right? Yes, that's 12 minus 13 over 4, which is equal to 2 sine x. This gives you negative 1 over 4 is equal to 2 sine x, right? So at this point, we divide both sides by 2, right? So that'll give me negative 1 over 8 is equal to sine x. So you can just basically say sine x is equal to negative 1 over 8. Obviously, the next thing will be to get the sine inverse of negative 1 over 8. So here my calculator comes in again. Sine inverse of negative 1 over 8, close it, and that gives me, so this gives me negative 7.18 degrees. Negative 7.18 degrees. But there's a problem. There's a big, big problem here. Now, what's the problem I have? Now, the problem here is, if you look at the range that was given, our range is between 0 and 360, which clearly means that the angle we are getting cannot be negative. It is either there are two positive angles. Okay, so what we usually do in a case like this, right, is we just and listen, it doesn't matter if it's sine, cos, or tan. Once the angle you've gotten is negative, what do? Just add 360 to it, and that gives you a positive angle. Okay, so let me just create the answer space. I know if I scroll, I'll see the answer space. You can see the answer space here, right? So to just get the what's it called? Once to just to get the positive value of this, just say minus 7.18 or negative 7.18 plus 360. Negative 7.18 plus 360. And that gives you 352.8. Okay? Now, then to get the second angle, so do your normal stuff. I told you that if it is sine, well, if it is sine, we're doing 180 minus x. So which is 180 minus 7.18. I don't want to do 180 minus 352.8 because that gives me negative again. And it's a whole long process again to bring it back to positive. So just do 180 minus, then minus 7.18, which just gives me 187.18. And those are the two values. Again, you can cross-check your answer. What do I mean by cross-checking your answer? You can cross-check your answer simply by putting these answers we've gotten in the equation. So we'll just say 3 minus 2 sine of, let me use 352.8. I'll close the bracket. And I'm getting 3.2506. So let me do 13 divided by 4. Which gives me 3.2506. So it's virtually the same thing. So that means our answer is correct. Okay. So very, very, very important. Again, don't forget, for sine, you're doing 180 minus the first angle. For cosine, you're doing 360 minus the first angle. And therefore, tan, you're doing 180 plus the first angle. Please don't forget, you can always pause the video, rewind, forward, just to ensure that we're on the same page. Okay, so let me just take another question on calculator before I go to no calculator. So let's answer this one that has to do with cosine. This one has to do with cosine. Again, it's another exam styled question, and it has to do with cosine. So you have 5 cos x plus 3 is equal to 0. Okay, so let's solve normally. So that gives us 5 cos x is negative 3. So cos x is negative 3 over 5 again. We'll do cos inverse of that. Shift cos of negative 3 divided by 5. And that gives me 126. Sorry, that gives me, because x is 126.9. So I have 126.9. Okay. And then we said, if it is cosine, what we are doing is 360 minus the first angle. 360 minus the first angle. So I just use my calculator again. 360 minus the first angle, and that gives me 233.1. Again, we can always cross-check our answers if are correct or not. How do you do that? Just put the value 5 cos 126.9, and then we add 3 to it, and that gives us 0 automatically. So that means our answer is correct. So quickly, let's just apply it to no calculator paper. And the reason why this is important is because obviously no calculator has come to stay, and then that's something we must look at together. Okay, so let's look at let me pick one of the two because of time. Okay, let's look at this. This carries more marks, it's 3 marks. So let's just look at this. It says 4 cos squared x is 3. For again, we have 2 answers we need to get. Okay, so let's solve this as a usual normal equation. So you have cos x squared is equal to 3 over 4. Take square root of both sides. Cos x is square root of 3 all over 4. Okay, so cos x, again, this is no calculator, so your 3 does not have a square root, so it remains like that, but your 4 has a square root. Is root 3 over 2. So this is the cos x. Okay, so now let's get the angles. So to get the angle, you have to say cos inverse of root 3 all over 2. Remember, we did our special angles, and in our special angles, we know that cos of root 3, if you do cos 30, that gives you root 3 over 2. So cos inverse of root 3 over 2 is equal to 30 degree. Okay, so the first answer is 30. Then if it since it is cos, we say once it's cos, you do 360 minus the angle, which is 360 minus 30, which is 330 degrees. So the two stuff we're looking for is 30 degree and 330 degree. And so that's how the no calculator questions can be. The no calculator questions are usually based on the special angles we know, sine 30, sine 30, 30, 60, 30, 60, 45 basically. Okay, so you must know the sine of 30, cos of 30, tan of 30, same thing for 60, same thing for 45. But you know that 60 and 30 are basically related. So sine 30 is cos 60, sine 60 is cos 30. Okay, and that's how related they are. Okay, so that's just the topic in a very, very um short video. Okay, so we try to make the videos as short as possible so that you can rewind, watch, rewind, watch, rewind, and watch. Okay, so that will be it. Same thing for tan. We can also do the same thing for tan. I don't think I queued any question on tan. Let me see if I can quickly get any question on tan, but it's virtually the same process. Virtually the same process. Okay, so this is one for tan. Okay, this is one for tan. This one says tan x. This one says tan x. Okay, so let's just solve this. So tan x is negative of root 3. Okay, so this is a calculator paper. So do tan inverse of negative root 3. Okay, so tan inverse of negative root 3. Negative root 3. And that gives me negative 60. That gives me negative 60. Again, since it's negative 60, we know that this cannot happen because our our range of answer must be between 0 and 360. So we can obviously say the first thing I'm going to do is just to say plus 360 to give me the positive one. Okay, so the first one is 300 degrees. Okay, and then since it's tan, we say tan is 180 plus x. Sorry about that. 180 plus x, which is 180 plus minus 60. That's 180 minus 60, which is 120. So it is 300 and 120 degrees. Again, you can always go and check if your answer is correct or not. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, and that's just the topic in a nutshell. So thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and don't forget to um share with your friends so that everybody can benefit from this useful video. Thank you very much for your time. Bye bye.